Welcome to Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds. I am Nerder Doug, and tonight I am hanging out with this nerd.
It is Nerdarchist Ted. How are you doing this fine and lovely evening, sir?
Great, I couldn't come up with a catchy topic-related intro
So,
there.
in other words, you would say you lacked vision?
I did.
Direction?
Yes.
So, I am going to start and end this stream with a gentle reminder. I know we have a lot of awesome fans out there, so you will have to bear with the traveling that is going to be happening as people begin to move towards Gen Con and whatnot. This is actually going to be the last stream on the channel until next Tuesday night. So we didn't have a live chat today as Dave and I were meeting for prepping for videos, and then we're actually going to be filming tomorrow, and then super bright and early Wednesday morning, Dave is hopping in the car to drive out to Gen Con. So if you happen to be heading in that direction, go look for him, go have a blast, shake his hand, or, wave hi, depending upon, what your COVID paranoia is going to be, or his, as it might happen to be. But there is no game tomorrow night, so we'll have to wait on that. And then there's, because Dave is going to be coming back from Gen Con on Monday, he's not going to be able to do the stream with me next week. Or would it be with you? I forget which. But either direction, he's not going to be available. So we're taking the night off. And then we'll be back with Steven's game, Ashes of Ardor, next Tuesday night. So, yeah.
It's a little vacay.
Indeed.
Oh, yeah, I guess it is. In reality, too. He's going to Gen Con.
I am actually taking a vacation in the interim with my family.
Oh, nice.
Flying out to the Midwest for a little bit of, I don't want to call it R&R because we're running from like thing to thing to thing to thing. So,
where are you going? I mean, not to pry live.
Yeah. No worries. So
what's the address?
I don't know the name of the location. But I have to make sure my kids are not eavesdropping because they don't know yet. But since this is, another YouTube related thing, I'll go ahead and throw it out there. My family is a big fan of a YouTube channel called Snake Discovery.
Okay.
They have a reptile zoo out in Michigan, Minnesota, not Michigan, Minnesota. So they opened the doors to the public like 2 weeks ago. And we are flying out there to go check that place out. And then since we are absolute nerds and we are going to be in Minnesota, we found out that we're only about 90 minutes away from the biggest ball of twine in Minnesota. And as Weird Al fans as we are, we have to go check that out.
Sure, yeah, of course.
And then there's a couple other things that we've got planned to be out there. We're in a new state for the first time, so we got to get some geocaching in and, get the digital souvenirs for yet another state. It's, silly and ridiculous, but that's what we do.
Oh, sounds fun.
Tonight, we're here to kind of talk about vision and light.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's a broad term, which are always fun to talk about because it's like, those are just words. They have meaning, but they also are like game mechanics and things like that.
Absolutely.
And, and thinking about them, it's like the root of it actually... like the root of those two things in the game mechanics are very mechanical, right? Like there's a distance you can see and so forth, and like whether you can see in dim light or bright light. And I was like, well, they don't really often come up in that way for me because they're rooted in sort of the more like battle mat situation, right? For the most part. And I must play Theater of the Mind, but I found it interesting because I thought, well, they still act as sort of like guidance for me when I'm a player or GM too, to help make things more evocative and like they're a cool tool in that way as well.
So let me ask you this question.
Sure.
Looking back to the editions. I mean, now you have regular vision and you have dark vision, and it goes out to, whatever distance based on, race and powers and what have you. But, you used to have low light vision and ultra vision and super vision and all these other kinds of things. Despite its chaos, do you as a DM or a player miss any of those kind of nuances?
Yes, but probably not in a way that I would have ever thought when I was a kid at that time, in the sense of like, like ultravision, for instance. I think that's what dwarves had,
Mhm.
right? Yeah, it only worked underground and da 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 da. And it's like, well, yeah, I think it would come up in a more evocative sense, like I was saying. It's like, well, if the party was underground, you know, I would just sort of like help paint the scene through that character's point of view and lean on them and things like that, because that'd be cool. It's like, to sort of put them in that place. It's like, well, yes, this is what he can see, but the rest of you just see this,
See,
you
part
know.
of me with the evolution of gaming online and the ability to send private messages through, your VTT or through a Zoom call, part of me would love to have some of those features. Because like, all right, this is what everybody sees,
Mhm.
and then you could, literally have scripted. You copy and paste to
Oh yeah.
person one. Well, this is how much extra detail you make it out, and oh, the person who only has the heat vision, essentially,
Hmm.
oh, this is what you see. So like, these are kind of things that like I think could be cool, but I understand the simplification, even if some people refer to it as an oversimplification.
Sure. Um, well, I was just talking to my girlfriend Tara today about this not specific topic, but it's relevant in the fact that, like, we do our monthly fan games, right?
Mhm.
And so these are often people, I've never met them, they've never met each other, and we all of us run our games our own particular way, you, me, and Dave, and like, how was I gonna say this? You can kind of help, like I said, when you really like help paint the scene and try to like focus on immersing the players, even in, like a theater of the mind situation, and they hook onto that. And it's super easy when you already play with us role players, like our Tuesday night group. Where like, if you just said that, you could just announce, like, you wouldn't have to send them a secret message. In other words, the other players would just be like, okay, well, yeah, that's the scene that my characters, that they don't know that's there, but this guy does, and you know this and that. And I usually have pretty good luck. I mean, I can't think of an example during one of those games where somebody like, or where anybody players, got frustrated because it wasn't like specific with, you know, like I said, like secret messages or like
Right.
the exact distance of things
Right.
and so
Well, I
forth.
mean, there is something to be said. It's a lot easier to sit back and allow, like, all right, well, this particular player, if you don't necessarily know who you're dealing with, it's a lot harder to know exactly what type of player they are. When you have
Hmm.
a regular gaming table, you know how someone is going to respond to secret, to, I was going to say secret, but like private messages and that kind
Sure.
of stuff. Some people might be weirded out of like, well, why are they talking to just me?
Yeah.
Um, and since you don't know them, it's a lot harder to gauge those things. But like the people that you game with on a regular basis, be it weekly, be it monthly, be it bi-weekly or whatever, you know what to expect and they know what to expect from
Sure.
you. So it's a lot easier.
Yeah. But you can't. Well, I guess my point was you still can do that, because it's like, I do that, and people usually are like, okay, they'll go along with it. I guess just maybe they just have a trusting DM face.
So let me
I hope I do, because it's like I don't do that to like try and trap them. It's like, they can't see or whatever.
well, speaking of not seeing, have you ever done an entire, an adventure or section of the game or session where like the entire thing was in magical darkness that like couldn't be
Uh,
spelled, or you couldn't, like, they literally had to figure out how to do it blind?
yes, not that exactly. I mean, it wasn't magical darkness exactly, but I think it's in Book of Layers, and I may have like tweaked it a bit as well. But there's like this, Oculus temple or whatever, and like all the puzzles have to do with like you have to close your eyes and feel your way through them and all sorts of. I've done that a couple of times, run that a couple of times. I always change it up and
Sure.
things that turn out different. But yeah, it's pretty neat. Players seem to like it. Like trying to like get more of a tactile sense. There's like puzzles like that and things like that. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And one of our own, that Gaze of the Void Eye, is a great one to thwart all you. Yeah, but I got my devil's sight, because it's just straight up. It just says it's like nothing can see through it. And as GM, you can do that sometimes.
Well,
and it's not meant to, I think the intention, it's thematic, but also it is to get around that, because it's like, nope, there's just no way to see through it.
right. And that is the element that can be fun, and kind of links to Zargon's question. Blindness via darkness is common. Ever had a situation where you've had excessive light cause blindness? That can be an absolute fantastic way to go in the other direction. I mean,
Sure.
we all, it's an expression, blinded by the light.
Yeah.
So it's legitimately there. Stare at the lights too long, stare at the sun too long, and everything is just bright and white, and you just can't see. That could be a lot of fun to play around with.
Yeah, I don't remember which chat it was. It was one I did with you, and it wasn't too long ago, but it was not long after the Suicide Squad came out. And there's a great scene in that where it's raining during the day, and it's really, so like the sun's really bright, and it is like blinding everybody and making it's just totally open, like battlefield essentially.
Right.
In a parking lot, basically. And yeah, it was pretty cool. So yeah, that can absolutely happen.
But to further to my initial question, I have used magical darkness. So regardless of how you're removing vision, you are amazed at how many powers and spells and what have you rely on something that you can see. Like players were like, yeah, half my abilities just don't work. Everything is being done at disadvantage, and it seriously hampers the players and forces them to like begin to start like, how can I get creative? Everything is at disadvantage. My God, the rogue begins to cry.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, I suck at everything. I can't see that.
So that's a good thing to like keep in mind. When you do, because it's like it is fun to do those sorts of scenarios and everything, but it will hamper players. So it's like, well, maybe turn the dial down on like the danger of
you absolutely have to turn the dial down several ticks, because you're supposed to be challenging them. And as a DM, I am always seeking new ways to play with that dial and to and to challenge my players. And the group that I have at my my Saturday night monthly game are all veterans, and it's going to be interesting in a few months when Dave and I flip-flop DM seats, because he's going to take over DMing for the veterans game.
Oh, okay.
And I'm going to be taking over the DM spot for the other game, which is, besides Dave and I, there's two people who've been playing a long time and two newbies.
Is that currently the Monster Hearts group? The
Monster Hearts?
Or a Monster of the Week or whatever.
No. This is the all reptiles game.
Oh, okay.
What is he calling it? The
Council of Worms.
Council of Worms. Yeah, that's it. I was going to call it Court of Worms. I'm like, no, that's not
right. And every time I think of it too, I'm like, wait, which one is the old book? And
yeah,
the old module.
Court of Worms is the dragon book.
Yeah.
Earlier. But I love that game. That's where I play my my lizard folk artificer, who now has got even more magical powers.
Yeah, what level is that game?
I think we just hit 8th.
Okay, so pretty significant level.
Versus my game that we just hit 15th.
Whoo, man.
So, but they they just fought a essentially, it was a creature that was a like an aberration, but like a full-on outsider that came from other worlds, that was strong enough to possess an ancient gold dragon.
Wow, that's pretty powerful.
So I had taken the gold dragon the ancient gold dragon, and used that as the base for building my creature. And then of course, like it initially was in the body, but like I wasn't planning on having them fight the dragon. So depending upon how they approached the encounter, it could have very well been. But it was literally Dave was able to get past its perception by 2.
Wow, okay.
You know, I mean, a gold dragon has a passive perception of 27.
Jeez, really?
So
They're quite wise.
he rolled a 29.
Nice.
He didn't have a whole lot of wiggle room, but all he had to do was get in contact with it.
Mm-hmm.
It could have gone very badly.
So I feel like, at least for me as a player, the concepts of like vision and light came up pretty heavily in our session 1 of Steven's Ashes of Ardor game.
Okay.
It was a lot of it took place at night or in the darkness, and I'm playing a Leonin or an Asllari in his world, they're called there. They don't have dark vision, I don't think. I don't think I had dark vision because I looked, and so it's like it was interesting to me. I didn't feel like it was limiting. It's like it actually helped like get into the scene, and I Stephen, like the evocative nature of the storytelling is important to him, and I was totally feeling that vibe like the whole time. I was really like could picture it, and a lot of it I felt like was because that I didn't have dark vision and stuff. So in a way, it was like, well, it would be like me being there. Like that's, you know what I mean? Like it was easily to relate to that. Like it would be kind of like, I don't know what's beyond here, and we're being attacked or whatever.
I mean, when you begin looking at being out in the woods in the dark with faint moonlight, it is incredibly mind-bogglingly bizarre, and it's dangerous. Like you could easily trip on something if you're not careful.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I should a quick question and then a longer one. So somewhere up there said, yes, what kind of kombucha do I have this evening? It's blackberry hops. It's quite good. It's one of my favorites. And then Park says, do you find that when perception was split into spot and listen, it was easier to play with the exploration story narrative versus perception being a single role? For me, no, because Advantage just kind of mashed those two up and made them easier. It's like, well, if you're better at sight and it's a sight-based thing, and it's particularly important, then there's like certain creatures and races that have that, or hearing. I think like hawks or something. It's like if it's a sight-based thing, then they have advantage.
So I actually do feel that the spot and listen, when you had access to more skills, characters got more skills. It did allow for characters to go in different directions. So like, all right, if you were more observant visually or auditorially, you could have a little bit, of fun with it. Mm-hmm. But you only needed one to possibly notice somebody sneaking up on you. So sometimes players would be like, well, I'll just worry about this or I'll just worry about that. I think it is easier now, but from the exact question, the story narrative, you can have a lot more fun because like, oh, well, if I'm invisible, well, then you still have to stealth because I can listen. I can't see you clearly because you're invisible, but I can still make a listen check.
So, yeah, I guess to be more specific, like accurate to the question, I guess from a DM standpoint, I think it's easier to have them together too, because it's more of like just a key for your mind, like a reminder. Whereas like when it was split up, as a DM, you might have to think like, okay, well, this character is really good at listen. So like if you want to make that relevant, then you're going to have to always think about like, well, what could they hear but not see? Whereas if it's just a general thing, then you can just sort of like keep in mind like, oh yeah, that character is super perceptive, and like maybe, key on them to introduce things that might turn into narrative elements.
Right.
Because, as a DM, like we've talked about this many times. I think we even did a chat on the power of words or something like that. It's like anything you say, players are going to think is important. So if you were like, you can hear like the faint, like water dripping from like stalactites in a chamber nearby, they'd be like, we better check that out. It's like I was just saying that to be like set the mood, but okay, sure. Right? I mean, I'm sure you've been in that situation countless times. And that can be fun. Maybe you're like, oh, sure, maybe it turns into something.
There are times that DMs decide, that they want to stretch their legs a little bit, and they begin to go into a little bit of narrative or give a little bit more information than they're used to. And when the DMs do that and a player's like, oh my god, they're saying something, it must be important. So it's like they begin to chase down all these little rabbit holes. And then I don't have a problem if players want to do that, but there's been plenty of times I've thrown out little nuggets and trinkets.
Mhm.
They don't go anywhere. So you want to chase down something that ain't there, fine.
Yeah.
You won't find anything, and you're going to be frustrated that you missed out on the thing that's not there.
Or so, but just as like, or maybe not just as likely, but it's entirely possible that even as a GM, you might get inspired and be like, okay, this sounds fun, I'm going to turn it in, or just use it as a hook for something that you had in mind, like, oh, this reminds me of that thing I wanted to do. Like, yeah, I'll do it right now. Like
And
maybe it's like the water dripping has like worn away at the rack over like centuries, and there's like like the teeniest little hole, and you're like, yeah, you can see like the glint of treasure in the chamber below. And it's like next thing you know, they're excavating it and stuff. Who knows?
That is a great point, and something that shouldn't be overlooked is that if players begin to show interest in something, if you hadn't planned something and you do have the wherewithal to put something in that place, awesome, go for it, have fun with it. But don't feel forced
Right.
to add a scene if you're not inspired by the player's interest. It's something that it can be.
Yes, good point, Ted. Good, to make this
It can be a stressor. Not everybody handles improv DMing, and sometimes as even a improv DM that I tend to be, there are times that I feel like, all right, I wasn't expecting the players to do X, Y, and Z. How do I handle this situation? Usually I'm pretty good, but there are times I'm like, nah, if it ain't there, it ain't there. And
yeah, right. So there's another, equally useful way to reveal information to players, and I've used it many times. I'm curious if you had, and that is, a character having a vision, whether it's a dream or they just see something, and then when they look away and look back, it isn't there anymore. I mean, I know I've done that. I can't even tell you how many times in different ways.
Dreams are something that I use quite frequently in my games, especially as of late. I've basically expanded upon elements of what I was referring to as like the dream thief throughout my current repercussions game, dealing with aberrations and outsiders that have come via meteors into the planet. But there's been a lot of prophetic dreams, and a lot of conversation and attacks that have even happened via dream. The aforementioned outsider that was possessing the dragon actually literally knocked someone unconscious, like via psychic damage.
Oh, okay.
So
at that level too, that was a tremendous amount, huh?
Yeah. Oh, it like the player was getting uppity, and he took some psychic damage, and he kept being uppity, so he kept taking psychic damage. And had he not been in a room with another character, it certainly could have been a problem. But the other player came awake at the the thrashing, and it's all like blood leaking out of its mouth, nose, and ears, and it's like, oh, holy crap. Like he reached down and had to stabilize and heal and what have you. I mean, the characters are high enough level that even if he had somehow died, they had enough wealth and the power to resurrect or reincarnate, not reincarnate, but revivify. That's what I'm looking for. Without too much of a hassle. So I don't really worry about it too much. But then even in my kids' game, the adult in the game, he has been kind of dancing along the lines. He's been a bard for most of the game, and he wound up taking a feat. I think like the warlock initiate or magic initiate warlock stuff, and then like he met a character that had druid powers, and he's like, well, do I go warlock or do I go druid at the level up? So like he wound up actually in a dream and then in like physicality, literally walking back and forth between like a grove and a patch of shadows, like having conversations with these two emissaries.
That
And
sounds pretty cool. What was it? That was in one of your home games?
yeah, one of my home games with the kids.
Oh, okay.
So we have the deity of nature, beauty, and fae of Belize, and then we have the Lord of Serpents, the Shadow Dragon, Sheol and Zir, and they were both vying for this particular individual who had shown
That's cool.
promise.
That's a pretty imaginative game. That's a pretty popular combo, Druid Warlock, huh?
I'd never actually seen it before. So,
Oh, really?
yeah. I mean, you got wisdom and charisma.
Yeah, I know they don't seem to go together, but I mean, like, just thematically, I guess maybe there's a lot of crossover elements.
Sure.
Like Faye, especially and stuff. But, you can make any kind of story work.
Considered a Drew lock then?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. We come up with much catchier names than those for our character.
Yeah, true. And we got a fun character build that we're filming tomorrow.
Yeah.
Not going to tease that one out any more than that, but be on the lookout for it eventually.
Mm-hmm.
But since we're talking about filming tomorrow, I might as well showcase these guys.
Oh, okay. Are you doing a video about that?
We are doing a couple of videos on the Wild Beyond the Witchlight.
Ooh, that's a thick book.
Yeah, it's a decent sized.
Is that like a 256 pager?
Yeah, you are really close. The last official page number is 252 with a few extra pages and then a full out map.
They got to be divisible by 4 in printing a lot.
Yeah.
That's like a common thing. But yeah, that's a thick one. I'm looking forward to that. I think. Did you get the kit? Did they send you the whole kit? Because that actually looks pretty dope, man. The like an accessory kit.
Did not get the kit. I've got just the regular book and the special cover. I did pre-order my dice because I have to have them. They're pretty gorgeous. Orange is my color, and they're orange dice. So they're gonna be here.
Yeah, it looks like a real fun. Like I could see. Like if you just got that and played that and like never played D&D again, it's like that seems like it'd be worth. I mean, it's got all like tokens and little doodads and thingamabobs and all that you need to play and fun stuff and dice. And it's like I mean, how many board games do we have that are like $60? And it's like, yeah, I played them once.
Oh, I could probably hide behind the stack of board games that I have not actually played.
Yeah. So yeah, I dig those like little kits with all the little extra stuff. Or like the Beatles and Grimm. It's like, yeah, why not? I mean, maybe you only play like once a year with your friends or something or whatever. It seems fun. I mean, not that it would, it would take a long time to play the whole thing, but It just looks like a cool product and a lot of fun stuff in there.
There absolutely is, some good stuff. I'm trying to be careful about reading any of the adventure stuff because it has been kind of leaked out to us that season 6 of Dawnbringers is going to be something about wild and witchlight.
So. Oh, okay. Well, I've been in those situations too, and I try not to look at things too much. Like when I was playing Dragon Heist and stuff like that or whatever. But I think we're both pretty good role players too. Where it's like, I wouldn't like use that again.
Well, I mean, for a time, right now we're in Rhyme, and V was pretty familiar with it because of the WizKids minis.
Oh, right.
because she used to work there. You know, we've got Dan in the game who so
Yeah, that's a good point.
there's definitely a lot of okay, and it's
His
amusing.
name's in the book, man.
So it's a scenario where it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
all right, there are times where someone's going to make the decision of like, all right, this is going to be fun. I'm doing this not only because my character would, but it doesn't matter whether I know or not. Where other times like, it's like, oh, this is a crux situation, so I am not going to be the one to go forward. And
Right.
I mean, there's definitely some major stuff that's happened recently, and I don't want to give away any spoilers, but if you happen to be watching that particular game, play catch up, because like the last couple of sessions, like there's been some shit go down, and like not to be
Yeah, I mean, man, you've been playing that character for like 3 years, right?
yeah.
I mean, you got to have a hero forge of him, right? I mean,
Oh yeah. And I don't mean to to be greedy and selfish here, but like I really feel like a lot of last session was very much on my character,
Oh, okay.
and there were like moments where you're like, I'm worried about what the future of my character is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's got to be one of the more memorable campaigns you've ever played in your life, right? I mean, you've been playing for
Oh yeah,
years and had like so many
I
high moments and got to do like everything your character set out to do, pretty,
I mean,
and more.
I've
That's
met
pretty awesome.
Morden. I've met Morden. I've essentially forged an artifact.
Yeah.
I mean, come on here. And I'm only level 13, 14.
Nice.
Uh,
There's a question in the chat from Nicholas, who's a frequent guest or a hangout person. That's cool. So they fought a black dragon this weekend. There are 59 hit points out of 62, and it did 60 damage with its breath attack. Would you ever make that kill a character flat out? I'm not 100% sure at the moment on those rules. I think it has to deal like it as much to kill you twice or something.
I don't know if it's
like it would have to do like
100%.
120 damage.
Yeah, I don't know if it's 50% or 100 or 100% of your hit points in the negatives to kill you outright.
Yeah, and I know like 5e doesn't go in the negatives, but
right,
basically
yeah. With a single attack, it has to bring you to whatever that target number is.
Yeah,
and unless it does that precisely, no, I wouldn't ever have that kill you outright. I mean, I've done attacks on players who are down to cause them to have failed death saving throws.
One of my favorite characters died instantly from massive damage in Dragon Heist. I ended up it was first session in I don't know well too much, but it was like in a dungeon.
Mm-hmm.
I opened a closet door. There was a gray ooze that just whipped out its pseudopod. It got a crit. I mean, you're only like first level. Maybe I don't even think you're second level at that point.
All
but
right,
even so, I was a wizard. And I had like 7 hit points, and it did like 15.
I'll tie this into the topic. You didn't see that coming?
No.
I mean, sometimes your character lacks vision.
Yes. Oh yeah. That character was famously lacking of vision and good common sense.
So
lazy braggart.
So
like con man.
For me, when it comes to killing characters, like it's not something I set out to do. Like I want, like ultimately as a DM, I want you as the player and the character to feel like your character's lives are on the line.
Mm-hmm.
In a big battle, I'd like it if somebody gets dropped, but it's not necessary.
I know what you mean, where you're like, okay, that's good. At least somebody went down to my boss or whatever.
I'm not into conceptually, helping anyone, gaining weight. But there is definitely a feel mentally that I'm doing my job properly when somebody is like, oh man, I'm stress eating. Like, typical gaming nerds, we got the pizza, we order, and, the more pizza that's eaten for the session, the more like, okay, well, I felt like, the characters, really felt like they had a hard time.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
When the thing had over 800 hit points and, was keeping them on the run for the majority of the session, I felt like I did my job.
Yeah, I didn't mind a bit. Like it was funny. Like the DM felt really bad, and the other players are like, "Oh my god," like everybody liked that character, and I did too. I didn't feel bad. I mean, it's like, hey, man, it happens, and it wasn't like the DM was trying to be malicious or anything. It's like that's just what it said in the module. And I, and they went on and finished up the dungeon.
I'm gonna say a toast not only to Zargon, but Mark's first 5e character.
Did he die from massive damage, or was
he did not die from massive damage. He died because the players had not learned of the power of a healer's kit.
Oh, okay. He just failed his death saves and stuff.
He failed the death save. The rogue came over to give him a medicine check, failed to stabilize. And then the following round, when it came back to Mark's turn, he rolled a 1. So
I just like whether I'm as a DM, I feel bad when characters die, but as a player, I don't care. I mean, to an extent.
Well, Dave's philosophy, and I'll go into that, here because we're talking about it.
Sure.
Is that like killing a first level character, even most of the time a second level character, is meaningless. Like you haven't gotten attached to it yet, so it's not that big a deal. But you get to 7th, 8th, 10th, 12th, 15th, like there's a lot of memories. There's a lot going on.
Sure.
There. And you kill that character, and that's emotional. That's like, holy crap.
Oh yeah, for sure. But there's more you can do about it.
Well, yes, at the higher level. So like the sweet spot, is, do they have a cleric? Has the cleric used all of their, upper tier spell slots that don't have a thing? That's when you nail them. And, that's when you drop the character. And, if you are 7th level, you might have more options. At 9th level, then it doesn't matter because then you can usually I'll just take a long rest and, resurrect them tomorrow. No big deal.
Well, yeah, the diamond.
I mean, well, yeah, but if you are if you're not playing a resource light,
yeah, right.
You've probably got that. Now, there are games where I'm not that kind of cleric.
Or the DM would just make it a quest for you to do that. Like that's probably what any of us would do.
Yeah, and depending upon what the party wants to do, what the player wants to do. I mean, there have been times where okay, a character's died. Okay, chuck them aside and you roll up something else and you move on. It's not that big a deal. But it's a matter of what is the ramifications? I've seen players who were like, what? Nah, I felt like that character had a good run. I don't want him resurrected. I'm not going to choose to come back. And you roll up a new guy. You divvy up the stuff. You have a funeral. People have their emotions, and voila. So there's definitely a lot of fun things that you can do. It's all part and parcel of the game. If there is no fear of death, then it's the challenge is a facade.
Well, I don't know. I mean, you could certainly play games where there's stakes, but besides death, but it is sort of like the measure of your character's life force.
Right. So Nicholas, says, honestly, I kind of thought it should kill me. I mean, a darn black dragon can't kill you with its signature attack. Then what can't? 5e is too soft.
Even though they never played any other editions.
yeah. Even though they've never played any other editions, but the game has a dial, and it depends as a player and a DM what you want to do. I mean, you can turn 5e up to hard mode. You can incorporate more rules that go back to that more first and second edition angle. there were times where like, okay, -10 was dead,
Mhm.
or 0 is dead. Um,
Yeah, I think that was like first and second edition, right? It's
I
like when
think
you
I
hit
think
zero, you were
second
dead.
I think second was -dead.
Oh, oh,
I
was it
think
okay?
second was -10. First edition, I believe, was 0 when you were just gone.
Yeah,
But it could be me blurring things together.
yeah. That was a long time ago.
Uh,
Well, I mean, again, to speak to that like Black Dragon scenario, I mean, if you think about it this way, it's like its signature attack took almost everything you had to not die from it. So it's like one more, if it hits you with a claw, if it snaps at you or, slams its tail against the ground, you're going to go down. So it's like, that's pretty scary.
oh, completely. You're looking at you have to take in the lens of what fifth edition is designed to do. You're playing heroes. You're
Hmm.
playing someone who is above and beyond. Excuse me.
Yeah, it's funny to me that like that's sometimes leveled as a criticism. It's like, oh, you're just playing like superheroes. Like, yeah, that's yes.
So
It's fantasy superheroes.
if you don't want to be superheroes, you can, as I said, move that dial. You can
Yeah.
change things so that things happen. There are you know games and streams out there. There are people that talk about what they do in their own home game. All right, passing a death save, we're going to change that to a 15. We're going to say that any downed or any attack on you once you're unconscious doesn't cause 2, it kills you. You have to do as Critical Role does, and have a resurrection ritual so that it takes time. You can't do multiple revivifications on a uh, you know like one cleric can't do multiple revivifications because that ceremony takes too long for anyone that's just recently died. So then you have
Yeah.
to make a choice of, who do you bring back if 2 people are dead? I mean, I did in one battle. There were like a whole bunch of NPCs, and I did 7 revivifies.
Wow.
And like I ate the cost. Like the council members had no clue that they were dead. They thought I just healed them. Like,
Oh yeah. Was
like
that the what do you do, knowledge cleric?
yeah, Relion.
Yeah, really. I could think of his
Uh,
name.
so like that wouldn't happen under Critical Role rules. I've seen players who talk about it's like, oh well, if you get revivified, that marks off a death save until you've done something to bring more life back into your body, or X amount of time to kind of stave that off. So like you could literally like, oh well, I've been revivified twice. If I go down, I'm dead. Like
Yeah.
or just that, like being knocked to 0 marks off a death save, and it stays there. Like those don't just go away. Um, so like there's lots of things that can be done to make the game more brutal if you're willing to go and explore and push things. Again, if that's the game you want. If you don't want that game, then fine. I'm happy with things as they are because I'm not out for blood. I'm not trying to kill people. Believe me, as a DM, if I want somebody dead, I can sure as hell make it happen.
Yeah. I mean, it's like as much as it doesn't really, I don't get like down in the dumps or too much, or like if a character dies or whatever. Um, you know, I just totally lost my train of thought. What was I going to say?
All right, so while you're trying to find your train of thought, I'll throw out something else that's out there. I don't know how much all of you wonderful people are paying attention to all the things that Dungeons and Dragons are doing, but I saw this floating around social media. I had to go and find my own copy, but there is the whole Dungeons and Dragons nerds. It's got the cool, candy rainbow. It's got the mimic on it, and there are essentially 7 downloads that you can get access to. The box that I bought was like 98 cents, and then you can once a day upload your receipt to nerdscandy.com/D&D, and voila, you get access to a thing. There are 6 adventures. There are 6 adventures that are all like designed to play one-on-one with a dungeon master and a player. And they're like, it's supposed to be like a 45-minute adventure. And if you get all 6, then you can get access to the 7th, which gets all the first 6 different characters together to play in a 2-hour session, essentially for 1 DM and up to 6 players to play the 6 different nerds characters throughout that adventure.
Yeah, that's an awesome promotional idea. I think I really dig that.
So
super easy to like, understand, get into and everything. Yeah.
So I downloaded the first adventure today. Happens to be, the Pink adventure, who is a rogue. There's gloves of thieving in there, which I feel is widely a broken magic item.
What does it do?
So it's gloves that you put on that are considered uncommon, does not require attunement, and it adds a +5 to like just like a straight bonus, which blows my mind because D&D doesn't typically do this, to sleight of hand, and I think lockpicks. It was like two different skills.
Yeah, like thieves' tools or something.
Like I think it's thieves' tools and
sleight of hand. That makes
sleight
sense.
of hand.
I can totally see why they do it, because it's like, well, trying to explain advantage because it's meant to be like a family thing. It's just like, yeah, you can play it with your kid or whatever, So it's like, trying to really explain advantage. It's like, oh, roll 2 of these and you pick the higher one. It's like, just add 5 to it. But it is kind of weird because it's like, if they did then segue into D&D, there isn't stuff like that.
Right.
I'm using my nerds character. Like, whoa.
A +5 to a skill, and it doesn't require attunement.
The 2 skills or 2 proficiency.
Yeah.
That's like a legendary. beyond
put
that.
them on and they're invisible while you're wearing. So it's like, people have no idea that you have a magic item on you.
There's probably already a Reddit thread about nerds are broken.
But the fact that we are Nerdarchy, the fact that it is called D&D Nerds,
absolutely.
I absolutely had to acquire, had to do whatever.
Each of the individual nerds themselves have their own existing lore in like the Candy Company's canon. That press briefing that Shelley Mazanoble was talking about it. She was like, yeah, it was really fun because they have like all this information of like, and that's why they picked like the classes for the different nerds, because they're like, this one is kind of like a rogue and stuff, like they have little personalities and stuff. That's pretty funny.
Well, I'm eager to see more and see what's going on.
I remember what I was going to say before about the characters dying and all that. Is just that, like, I don't, when I'm a player, I don't feel like it cheapened if it's not super dangerous. Like, not that it's ever explicitly so, but it's like, whatever, and like when I'm run games, it's like, I really just don't even think about it, to be honest. It's like, oh, if somebody goes down, it's like, oh, gee, okay, I better, put a lid on or like get a handle on what's going on here. Before it's it's a TPK or something like that. So I mean, I'm sure that turns a lot of people off because it's like, well, it's not challenging me and this and that. It's like, I just like the crazy what that comes about through role playing and rolling of dice to see if some things work or not.
The thing that should always be considered is everyone who comes to a table is coming for their own designs. What it is that they're looking for might not be the same thing that everybody else at the table is looking for. Yeah. And if you know your players and you know what kind of things that they enjoy, then it's all great. I feel that the group that I play with on Saturday nights very much is a different style group than the group that I play with on Tuesday nights. And it's nothing to say that one is better than the other. It's a different style. The game has 3
That's
pillars.
what's fun about it.
The game has 3 pillars, and you've got the ability to, dive into any which way that you like.
Hmm.
If somebody said, "Hey, would you be interested in a hardcore dungeon crawl? I've got some great ideas." I could be down for that if I have the mentality of going in. I'm making a combat centric character. I have to think about this. I have to think about
Having
that.
torches and sacks to put the coins in, and
Like those are kind
although
of.
it's to be fair, like I like that kind of atmosphere and thing, but it's like mentioned this a lot. Like I play Skyrim a lot, on and off over the years. I mean, it has to have millions of people. It's been around for like 10 years now, and it's like, to be honest with you, like that kind of stuff, I'd rather just play a video game, because it's like that, because it's like there is traps, and it's like sometimes I don't spot them, and it's like, oh crap, like I said, those rocks fall on me and stuff, or like the torch runs out, or I can't see because it's a dark tunnel. But it's like, just the way we play sort of were, it's usually like 2 or 3 hour sessions and stuff. Like you just never get anything done. Like it would take, 10 of those sessions to do like a dungeon of like a Skyrim dungeon,
Sure.
whereas that'll take me like 20 minutes of playing the game,
So,
and it's like, it is evocative, and there's like flickering fire, and like people like, like the guards ahead is like, did you hear something?
and there's something to be said about that. But I mean, for an online game that people are going to watch, there's an angle of like, yeah, I don't think that's of an interest for me to play,
Yeah.
for us to put up on a channel to have people watch. Now, who knows? Maybe if the DM is absolutely excellent and incorporates the box text and interesting traps and a really compelling storyline, it could be fantastic.
Yeah, if I had a group where we played like once a week consistently for like a long time, like 6 or 7 hours, like, yeah, I would love to do that for sure.
But
I just haven't had that in many years, so it's like so out of my out of my vision.
I've played every kind of style of game.
Yeah.
The more story oriented social pillar focus is the kind of games that I enjoy. We're going to do exploration, we're going to extract lore from the world, we're absolutely going to fight stuff, so all elements of the game are there. But,
yeah, I was just laughing at Nicholas Schuber because that's one of the things that guards will say, like, must have been the wind, and then it's like like arrows like right in their head, because they'll like slow down when you get the shots at people.
I don't know how much outside of the D&D spectrum of YouTube do you watch, but there's a YouTube channel that's pretty popular called Viva La Dirt League.
Okay.
And there's like Epic NPC Man, and they've been around for, I believe, years. And they have guard, like they act like they're based out of Australia, and the Epic NPC Man has guards that are basically like a video game, and they do all of that corny stuff, and it's pretty darn amusing.
I was trying to think of something to circle back around to a topic, and specifically light, because we kind of haven't talked a whole lot about that. And that can be an interesting thing to play with as well too, and in the sense of, like, I was thinking of those deep magic things that Kobold Press does, and I like a lot of those. And I remember for a long time, the one that threw me for a loop was, I think it was called Illumination Magic. Yeah, it's probably in there. And I was like, oh yeah, it's all about, and it had a sort of like a starry theme, like starlight and stuff. And I thought, like, oh, that's awesome. I mean, I love all that like cosmic hoo-ha, and no matter what game it is. But a lot of the magic had to do with like bending light to make shadows and things like that. And so that's a different aspect of light, which, can almost make something like, one of my favorite monsters is a shadow, simple CR 1/4 creature, almost like it better in a bright light, right? Because it's like, well, if it's a totally dark crypt or whatever, you wouldn't see it anyway. But it's like, in midday in the market square, imagine, you're just playing like a shopping thing, before we go to the dungeon, and you notice like, yeah, everybody's shadows are like not moving with them, or like they're just doing all that sort of thing, and that's a great way to like break state too, by just like describing like the shadows on the wall, or like maybe you walk away and it's like, yeah, you walk away and you notice your shadow doesn't come with you and stuff, and now it starts creeping away and like sliding up a wall and disappearing into a crack in the tavern door or whatever.
Yeah, that would be absolutely creepy.
Yeah.
So the illumination magic concerns both the manipulation of light and the observations of the heavens. Its practitioners have been likened to elemental specialists who have an affinity for light instead of fire, earth, air, or water. Naturally, these individuals are anathema to creatures and spellcasters that lurk in places where darkness and shadows hold sway.
Yeah, I believe the warlock in my longtime Spelljammer game transitioned into that, a warlock pack that I made out of that, because he became afraid of his patron. That was a great character. He early on in the campaign, he got killed and reincarnated into, he started off as a dragonborn and he reincarnated into a halfling. And then they were in some like strange place with like magical radiation that was causing all sorts of effects. And then later he got polymorphed into like a saber-toothed tiger or something like that for a time. And he like got this idea in his head that he's like, well, if I keep changing my form, then my patron can't like see me or find me, because he was just like scared of him. So he was just always changing, trying to find ways to do that, like to like have his body be permanently changed. But and then he eventually changed patrons into like a light dragon, basically, that we had.
Oh, cool. Yeah, so the illumination magic, there's it's a tradition for wizards beyond actually having spell lists. If you want to be a light centric character for other spellcasting classes as well.
Yeah, and those are super easy to like hack into like warlock packs too. There's a few articles on the site about that.
Yeah, I very much love Deep Magic. There's a lot of really fantastic stuff in there. We had done a review of most of those things while they were still DM's Guild product on the main channel. So if you want to hear some of our takes on that kind of stuff, you can always go check out those things. So those videos are several years old now, but just look for Deep Magic.
Who's a great player to give their character just like a weird vision and they'll totally do something with it? Robin.
Yeah. Robin is pretty great.
Yeah. I remember in the first Ingest Quest, like Steercast had a vision, and like I always like to just throw them in like while they're just doing normal stuff. It's and just like, and then all of a sudden like your eyes cloud over or whatever. But yeah, they're very great player to like act upon strange visions and things that they see.
I mean, it's not always visions, but like for the most part, if you give them something that is like, okay, here's the thing, this is now going to alter your character. All right, got it. I'm gonna go with it without a problem. The very first season, or very first session of one of the seasons, and I want to say it was, well, I don't remember which season it was, but it was when Robin was playing Omen, the RPG crate game.
Yeah.
Chaos Crew.
Yeah.
But Omen was a paladin who fought with a whip.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they found a bag of holding, but it wasn't like your average bag of holding. It was a bag of holding that basically turned you into a hoarder.
Okay.
So, like it gave you the flaw of you're always picking stuff up and you're always kind of like, basically being a magpie. And they ran with it for the entire game.
Sure.
It was awesome.
In a campaign that I ran for not a whole long time, I was actually shocked. So like, I'm always trying to, like I said, like just throw things out to give players like something to do, basically. And one of the players was a warlock, and like I had them see a vision. It was in that little nice starting town. You've been there, and like where there's the lighthouse thing, and it was like this dark cloud opens up over top of it, and like these shadows reach down, and blah blah blah. It was like while he was before he went to bed that night in the inn, because he could like see it from there. It's like he was just like, okay, and just never said it again. I was like, wow, okay, that fell flat. Like he didn't even, and like I didn't send him a private message or anything, and like the next day, one of the other characters like said something about it, and I was like, oh no, you didn't see it, just see it. And he's like, well, I'm just, he probably told us, right? But that morning I was like, did you? And he's like, no. I'm like, oh, okay. Like he never, it was a weird player. Like he never told the other characters anything that he knew or saw, or it was very strange. And I don't know, it was just a strange occurrence with a vision.
I mean, sometimes you're going to give players information, you share a vision, a dream, and sometimes players will absolutely latch on to, oh my God, this is something that's cool. I really want to, I want to either prevent, or I want to, make sure it happens, depending upon whether it's good, bad, what have you. Omens and, seeing into the future, like all of these kinds of things are fun visions and whatnot that, that can happen. And I should have mentioned when I, held up the Wild Beyond the Witchlight book. Perhaps one of you will have a vision of this particular book coming your way, as I'll be adding this one to the giveaway pile. Dave is going to be bringing, more books tomorrow when he, comes to film, and they will be added to the shelf. So I'm going to grab a couple of books, one or two extra books, add, to give away next month for, to get this Feywild adventure out into the hands of some awesome Nerdarchy fans, so that you two can be joining in the Fey adventure with everybody else. And I said it in the beginning, so I'm going to say it again now. This is the last video on the channel for a little while, or at least the Nerdarchy live channel. Don't want to cause any kind of panic. Dave and I are doing our own little vacations. Dave is getting ready to head out to Gen Con. So the Ashes of Ardor that we started last Tuesday of session 1, session 2 is not going to be until next Tuesday. The regular daily live chats that Dave does at noon, we had planning, yesterday and tomorrow that we're doing, and Dave's going to be traveling the next several days through to Monday. So there will not be any daily live chats, and the weekly live chat is going to be on hiatus tomorrow. So the next time we're actually going to be back to live is going to be next Tuesday night. So it's going to be the 21st, same usual time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard, for Ashes of Ardor session 2, which is going to be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, that game was very immersive.
So definitely, don't fret. Don't worry, come on back to, the channel. There's plenty of hours worth of content for you to either, catch up on, rewatch the awesome people that we've had on the channel, whatever it is that you're going to do.
Oh, good. Can I say one thing
by all means, go for it.
And if you prefer them in audio format, our Patreon supporters can find all of our live chats converted into audio files that you can just download and listen to at your leisure over on our Patreon page.
All right, so without further ado, you guys know the drill. You can say it with me if you want. Until next time,
Stay
stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy.